My son looked me in the eye, in the house I built with my dead wife's hands still on every wall, and told me to hand over our bedroom or pack my bags. He thought I'd cry. He thought I'd fold. Instead, I picked up the phone and called a realtor. 2 weeks later, he had 30 days to find a new address. He never saw it coming. Let me tell you how it happened. My name is Thomas Reynolds. I'm 61 years old, and for 34 years I had a good life. My wife's name was Linda. We built this house together, back when the street was still half-empty lots, and the bank almost said no to our loan. Linda picked the paint. Linda planted the maple tree in the front yard. Linda hung the wallpaper in the hallway that I always said was too busy and that I now wouldn't change for anything in the world. We raised one son in that house, Jacob. He was easy to love as a boy. Good grades, good manners, the kind of kid other parents used to point to. I was proud of him. I still wanted to be. 2 years ago, Linda got sick. It moved fast. I won't dwell on that part. You know how it goes, or you're lucky enough not to. I'll just say the house got quiet in a way it had never been quiet before. I'd wake up and reach for her side of the bed out of habit, and then remember. Jacob was 29 when we lost her. He'd been married to Chloe for about a year. Chloe seemed nice enough at the wedding, polite, well-dressed, complimented my tie. I didn't know her well. You don't, at first, with a daughter-in-law. You take the son's word for it. About 4 months after the funeral, Jacob called me. Dad, he said, Chloe and I have been talking. Our lease is up next month, and honestly, with everything going on with you being alone in that big house, maybe we should move in, just for a while, help each other out. I'll admit, it sounded good to me. I didn't want to eat dinner by myself every night for the rest of my life. I told him yes before he even finished the sentence. They moved in on a Saturday in March. I gave them Jacob's old room, which we'd redone as a guest room after he left for college. I made space in the garage for Chloe's exercise equipment. I even had a second key made for the side door so they wouldn't have to knock. For the first month, it really was good. Chloe cooked on Sundays. She made a lemon chicken that I still think about. Jacob and I watched football together like we used to before life got complicated. I thought maybe this is how it's supposed to work. Maybe grief doesn't have to mean loneliness. I should have paid closer attention to the small things, like the way Chloe would walk through the house sometimes with a strange, appraising look. The same look my old contractor used to get when he was pricing out a renovation. Like the way she'd say things such as, "This place really has good bones, Thomas. It's a shame it's not more modernized." I laughed it off. I figured she just liked design shows. Like the way, one evening in April, I came downstairs for a glass of water and found her standing at the door of my bedroom, Linda's and my old bedroom, the master. Just standing there, looking in. The lights were off. She didn't hear me on the stairs. "Everything okay?" I asked. She jumped a little, then smiled too quickly. "Oh, just admiring the space. This room gets such good light in the morning, doesn't it?" I told her it did. I went back to bed. I didn't think much more about it that night. But something about the way she'd said, "such good light," like she was already picturing her own curtains on my windows, sat wrong with me. Just a splinter of a thought. Nothing I could have named yet. I went to bed that night still telling myself things were fine. Still telling myself that letting my son and his wife move in was the best decision I'd made since Linda passed. I had no idea how wrong I was about to be proven. Little things started piling up after that night. Small enough that I kept explaining them away. Big enough, looking back, that I should have seen exactly where they were headed. First, it was the improvement suggestions. Chloe started leaving little notes on the kitchen counter, paint swatches, links to furniture websites bookmarked on the shared laptop. Just ideas, Thomas. No pressure. I'd glance at them and toss most of them, but I noticed they were never about the guest room where they actually slept. They were always about the living room, the kitchen, the master suite. Then came the comments about space. Chloe mentioned, more than once, how cramped the guest room felt for 2 people. She'd sigh about it at dinner, almost to herself, like she wasn't really talking to me but wanted me to hear it anyway. It's just hard sharing one closet, you know? Jacob's suits barely fit. I offered at one point to clear out part of the hall closet for their overflow. Chloe thanked me sweetly, but the look on her face wasn't gratitude. It was something closer to disappointment, like I'd handed her a consolation prize instead of what she actually wanted. Jacob, for his part, seemed to be drifting along behind her. My son had always been easygoing, but I started noticing he'd gone quiet in a specific way. The way he used to go quiet as a teenager when he'd already decided to do something he knew I wouldn't like, and was just waiting for the right moment to tell me. One night in May, I heard them talking in low voices in their room. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, I was just walking to the bathroom, but I caught a few words through the door. Chloe's voice, tight and insistent. "He's not going to live forever in that room, Jacob. We might as well." I didn't hear the rest. I kept walking. I told myself it was nothing. By June, the comments had a new edge to them. Chloe started saying things like, "This house is really meant for a young family, you know. All this space, and it's just you rattling around in here most of the day." She'd say it lightly, like a joke, but jokes like that don't come from nowhere. Then there was the day I came home early from my doctor's appointment and found Chloe in my bedroom. Not standing at the door this time, but inside it. She had my dresser drawer open. When she heard me on the stairs, she shut it fast and turned around, cheeks a little pink. "Sorry. I was looking for the extra pillows. Jacob said you kept spares in here." We did keep spares in the hall closet, not my dresser. I knew that. She probably didn't think I'd remember something so small. I let it go again. "I want to be honest with you. I didn't want to see it. After Linda died, I was so hungry for the house to feel full again, for there to be voices in the kitchen and dishes to wash for more than one person, that I talked myself out of every warning sign. I told myself Chloe was just opinionated. I told myself Jacob was just tired from his new job. I told myself families adjust, that friction is normal, that it would smooth itself out. Then, on a Tuesday evening in late June, Jacob asked me to sit down at the kitchen table. Chloe sat next to him, arms crossed, chin up like she was bracing for a fight she'd already decided she was going to win. "Dad," Jacob said, not quite meeting my eyes, "we need to talk about the bedroom situation." I felt something in my chest go very still. "Chloe and I have been talking," he went on, "and honestly, it doesn't make sense for the two of us to be squeezed into that small room, while you have the whole master suite to yourself. We think it's time you moved into the guest room and we take the master." I looked at my son. My son, in the house his mother had picked the wallpaper for, and I understood all at once that this had never been about helping me. This had been building towards something, and whatever it was, I was about to find out exactly how far they were willing to take it. I didn't say anything right away. I just looked at the two of them, my son, who wouldn't meet my eyes, and Chloe, who was meeting them just fine, steady and expectant, like she was waiting for me to hand something over that already belonged to her. "Let me understand," I said slowly. "You want me to move out of the room I shared with your mother for 30 years, into the guest room, in my own house?" "It's not like that, Dad," Jacob said, shifting in his seat. "It's just practical. That room has the better closet space, the attached bathroom." "It has your mother in it," I said, "every corner of it." Chloe's face didn't soften. If anything, it hardened a little. "Thomas, with respect, Linda's been gone 2 years. At some point, don't you think it's time to stop treating this house like a museum? We're trying to build a life here, too." I felt something cold settle into my stomach. Not sadness, exactly, recognition. "This is who you are," I thought, looking at her. "This is what this has been about the whole time." "So this is a demand," I said, "not a request." Jacob's jaw tightened, and then he said the words I don't think I'll ever fully stop hearing. "Give us the room, Dad, or you can move out." I sat there for a moment in complete silence. My own son, telling me to leave my own house, the house with my name, only my name, on the deed, the house I'd paid off 2 years before Linda got sick, the house that was never, not for one single day, anything but entirely mine. "I want to tell you," I yelled. I didn't. Something in me went very quiet and very clear instead, the way it does right before you make a decision you know you're not going to walk back. "Understood," I said, and I got up from the table and went for a walk around the block, because I needed air, and because I needed to think without either of their faces in front of me. Walking those familiar streets, I let myself finally look at the whole picture instead of each piece separately. The bookmarked furniture links, the talk about modernizing, the standing in my doorway admiring the light, the dresser drawer, the comment about a house meant for a young family. None of it had been random. None of it had been innocent curiosity. It had all been circling toward exactly this moment, toward pushing me, slowly and deniably, out of the center of my own home. I thought about Linda. I thought about what she would have said, watching her son deliver an ultimatum like that at the kitchen table she'd picked out herself. I don't think she would have cried either. I think she would have gotten that look on her face. The one she got when a salesman tried to talk over her, and quietly, calmly, made a decision of her own. By the time I got back to the house, I wasn't angry anymore. Angry would have meant yelling, slamming doors, threats I didn't intend to keep. What I felt instead was colder and steadier than anger. I felt certain. I went inside. Jacob and Chloe were in the living room, and Chloe actually looked pleased with herself, like she assumed the matter was already settled in her favor. "We don't need to discuss this any further tonight," I told them. "I'll think about what you said." Chloe smiled. Jacob looked relieved. They had no idea I'd already made my decision. They had no idea what thinking about it was going to look like, starting first thing the next morning. I went up to my room that night. My room for one more little while, and for the first time since Linda died, I slept without dreaming of her at all. I dreamed instead of somewhere new, somewhere quiet, somewhere no one would ever tell me to give up my own bed. The next morning, before Jacob and Chloe were even awake, I called a realtor named Patricia Odom, a woman I'd golfed with a few times over the years. I told her I wanted to sell my house. She asked when I was thinking of listing. "Today, if you can manage it," I said. "I want to be clear about something. I wasn't doing this out of spite, and I wasn't doing it to punish my son. I was doing it because a person who tells you to give up your bed in your own home has told you everything you need to know about what they think you're worth to them. I wasn't going to spend the last good years I had left being slowly pushed out of my own life by two people who saw me as an obstacle between them and a nicer bedroom." Patricia came by that afternoon while Jacob and Chloe were both at work. She walked the house with a practiced eye, made some notes, took some photos of the exterior, the kitchen, the backyard, where Linda used to grow tomatoes. She told me given the location and the condition of the house, we could likely have an offer within 2 weeks. I told her that sounded perfect. I didn't say a word to Jacob or Chloe. Not that evening. Not the next day. I went about the house exactly as I had before, made coffee in the morning, watched the news, asked Chloe how her week was going. If anything, I was more pleasant than usual. I wanted them comfortable. I wanted them settled into the idea that Dad had quietly accepted the new arrangement, the way he'd quietly accepted so many things since Linda passed. Chloe, for her part, seemed to relax completely. She started talking more openly about paint colors for the new room. She asked me, almost sweetly, whether I'd mind if they repainted once they moved in, since the current color wasn't really their style. I told her to do whatever she liked. She had no idea there would be no once they moved in. She had no idea a nice young couple from 2 towns over had already scheduled a walkthrough. The offer came in 11 days later. Full asking price, no contingencies, a 30-day close requested by the buyers, who were expecting their first child and wanted to be settled before the baby came. I signed the paperwork at Patricia's office on a Thursday afternoon, sitting in a small conference room with a cup of coffee going cold in front of me, feeling lighter than I had in months. I still hadn't told Jacob and Chloe a thing. That Sunday, Chloe made her lemon chicken again, the same one she'd made back in those first good weeks. We sat at the table together, the 3 of us, and for a moment it almost felt like it had at the beginning, easy, ordinary, almost like a family. Jacob asked me, casually, if I'd had any more thoughts about the room situation. "Actually," I said, setting down my fork, "I have some news." Chloe looked up first, that same appraising look in her eyes, clearly expecting me to finally hand over the keys to the master suite. "I've sold the house," I said. The silence that followed was the kind you could have heard a maple tree grow in. "You, what?" Jacob said. "I sold it," I repeated. "Signed the papers Thursday. Closing is in 30 days. Chloe's fork clattered against her plate. "You can't be serious. Thomas, this is our home too." "No," I said, calm as I'd ever been in my life. "It was never your home. It's my house. It has my name on it, and only my name, and it has for 36 years. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live." I watched something shift across both their faces at once, shock, then disbelief, then the first flicker of real fear, as it started to dawn on them exactly what they'd pushed me into doing, and exactly how little power they had to undo it. For the next few days, the house felt like it was holding its breath. Jacob tried reasoning with me first. He came to me the morning after dinner, looking pale and a little wild around the eyes, and said, "Dad, you have to call the realtor. Tell them you changed your mind. We'll figure something else out. We don't even need the master bedroom anymore. Forget I ever said anything." "It's done, Jacob," I told him. The papers are signed. There's a family with a baby on the way counting on this closing. I'm not backing out of a legal contract because you're suddenly willing to compromise now that there's consequences. Chloe tried a different approach entirely. She caught me alone in the kitchen and turned on all the warmth she'd apparently been saving up. Thomas, I think there's been a misunderstanding between us. I never meant to make you feel pushed out. I was just excited about decorating, that's all. You know how women get about these things. I looked at her for a long moment. Chloe, I said, you stood in my bedroom looking through my dresser drawers. You told my son to give me an ultimatum in my own house. I'm 61 years old. I know exactly what an accident looks like, and I know exactly what a plan looks like. This was a plan. She didn't have an answer for that, not a real one. Over the following weeks, word got around, the way it always does in families. My sister called, having heard from Jacob's version of events, expecting to talk me out of something reckless. Once I told her the actual sequence, the ultimatum, the bedroom, the get out, her tone changed fast. He said what to you, she said. In your own house? By the time I finished the story, she wasn't defending Jacob anymore. She was quiet, and then she said something I've thought about since. Linda would be proud of you for not folding. Jacob and Chloe scrambled to find a new place in time for the closing. It wasn't easy. Decent apartments require deposits, and deposits require savings, and it turned out neither of them had much put aside, since they'd been counting on staying with me indefinitely. They ended up in a smaller two-bedroom across town, paying more than they'd expected for less space than they'd had in my guest room. I heard, secondhand, that Chloe was furious about the drop in their standard of living. I heard Jacob had started picking up extra shifts to cover it. About 2 weeks before the closing date, Jacob showed up at the house alone, without Chloe. He looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. Dad, he said, I'm sorry. I should never have said what I said. I was letting Chloe push me into things I didn't actually believe. You didn't deserve that. Mom wouldn't have let me get away with it, and I let it happen anyway. I appreciated that he said it. I told him so. But I also told him that an apology after the consequences land is a different thing than the respect he should have shown me before I ever had to make a decision like this. I wasn't cruel about it. I didn't slam a door on my own son. But I also didn't undo anything, because there was nothing left to undo. The house had a new owner waiting to move a crib into the room where Jacob used to sleep. The closing happened on schedule. I handed over the keys to a young couple named the Fentons, who couldn't stop smiling as they walked through the front door for the first time as owners. I told them about the maple tree out front and how it liked to be watered deeply once a week in the summer. I didn't tell them the whole story of the last few months. Some things you keep for yourself. With the proceeds from the sale, I bought a small house on a lake about 90 minutes north. 2 bedrooms, a dock, more quiet than I'd had in years. I fish most mornings now. I go into town for coffee with a couple of retired guys I met at the hardware store. Jacob calls me most Sundays, and we're rebuilding something. Slowly, the two of us, without Chloe in the room most of the time. I don't know exactly how things will end up between my son and me. But I know this. Nobody gets to tell me to give up my own bed in my own house and expect me to simply comply because I'm supposed to be the understanding one, the grieving one, the one who doesn't make waves. I made a wave, and it turned out to carry me somewhere better than where I started. Sometimes the most satisfying ending isn't watching someone get destroyed. It's watching them finally receive the bill for everything they broke, and realizing there's no one left willing to pay it for them. That's all for today on Dad After Dawn. Like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you have walked away this calmly?